And now to our interview segment. My guest, Fola Arthur-Worrey, was called to the Nigerian bar in 1980. He has held many leadership positions, from being Director of Public Prosecution to being Solicitor General and then Commissioner for Lands, all in Lagos State. He is the immediate past Executive Secretary of the Lagos State Security Trust Fund. These days, he describes himself as a pensioner, but he consults widely for various individuals and organizations on issues of law and order and governance. In this chat, we talk about the security situation in the country, the plight of the internally displaced, and much more. There are mixed reactions on how well the government is handling security in the country. The government says that it has technically defeated Boko Haram, but some other people say that as long as the Chibok girls and other victims of Boko Haram are still out there, that the government is not doing enough. What do you think?
I think you can't tie Boko Haram victory or the extent to which the government has fought and brought Boko Haram under some level of control exclusively to Chibok girls. There's other collateral damage. Hundreds and thousands of people have died. What about the people on the Nigerian side? Nigerian soldiers who have died. So I don't agree that the non-return of Chibok girls means no progress in the war against Boko Haram.
But it's a promise the president himself made.
I say that it's not, the government never said that we will declare Boko Haram defeated only when we return the Chibok girls. War is essentially a battle for territory. All wars in history have been battle for territory. So if Boko Haram had large swathes of Nigerian territory before the renewed offensive by the federal government, and the federal government has been able to recover 90% of that territory, that is victory. When the West, when Europe and the Allies defeated Germany, it was a territorial war. They pushed the Nazis back from the places they had invaded and finally entered Berlin and defeated them. So while it is unfortunate that the Chibok girls have not been returned, we cannot use that exclusively as an indication of how well the government has done. I do not agree with that. There's always collateral damage in war. It's unfortunate, but you know, you can't say that the non-release of 219 girls, right, sort of overshadows the recovery of so many towns and villages and the ability of people to return to their villages after a 5-year war. So I think there's a bit of sentiment and emotion in that rather than a practical, strategic view.
It's been 2 years since the abduction of the Chibok girls. A new video that just came to light, the proof of life video, suggests that they may still be alive. But what do you make of past efforts at finding the girls, and what do you think can be done differently?
It's war. In war, unfortunate things happen. The question as to whether the government of the time reacted sufficiently is a lot of it I would describe as subjective. War can be brutal and things happen, and we're talking about a huge swathe of territory. I think that yes, perhaps more efforts could have been made, yes, and I don't think the chapter is closed. There's always, you know, people have been returned even after 10 years, 20 years. So I think it's important that government sort of remains committed to their recovery. But we shouldn't over-focus. There are so many other issues. There are IDPs, millions of them. And I worry whether we are competently managing that process, you know, because that's an effort. It requires a lot of effort, and I wonder whether we are. The return of, you know, hundreds of thousands of children to schools, I think that also needs to be looked at. So Chibok is a subset of a huge and disruptive process. And the first thing you need to do in a war in any way, in any event, is defeat the enemy before you now can focus more of your attention on what I would still call collateral issues. So I think that the government has done the best it can. Remember, it inherited a bad case. But in no way am I indicating that maybe more couldn't be done, or but the book's not closed. So I think that if we adopt the philosophy that every human life is valuable, which sometimes you wonder whether in Nigeria over the past decades we've really committed to that. We can say only 2 people died, only. You know what I'm saying? You don't use only when you are talking about death. So maybe we need to just rejig our whole approach to things, to governance, to the importance of detail, to the importance of commitment, to the importance of a proper use of resources, to reduce the number of idle policemen attached to VIP, so-called VIPs.
If we were to rejig the system, just like you're advocating, what are the specifics of what we should do?
Well, let me put it this way. We are challenged by disorder. We need to restore order in our daily lives in Nigeria. We're too disorderly, and criminals love disorder. I believe that all facets of criminality, kidnapping, robbery, street crime, Boko Haram, which remember started as Shiites in country, they are just feeding off the disorder and the fact that we are diverting resources from the establishment of order to the protection of people who generally are not deserving of. I've never seen a country expend so much resources on the protection of so-called VIPs when it is confronted by a challenging situation of disorder. And like I said, look, the organizing principle of modern society is order, around which all institutions but we don't seem to have adopted that. So, the mere declaration of intent is not enough. We need to, look, the hell that people go through traveling across Nigeria, in just as a result of disorder, as a result of people not obeying the simplest of traffic signs. I mean, in Abia State, there's a junction that is notorious, infamous. Ari Junction is what it's called, where people coming from Port Harcourt or going to Enugu are trapped for hours and hours and hours, and it is just horrendous. And of course, as night falls, the vagabonds, come out of the shadows and start to cash in. Why can we not deal? Is it because it's not a terrorist threat that we do not understand the importance of dealing with such things? So I keep saying that, the way we think and the structure of our society is where the challenges are. We need to, our thinking is a bit sort of, there doesn't seem to be an organizing principle around which we can all, and everybody's responsible. I assure you, I myself, I remember long ago when I used to complain about events blocking traffic, and then I had my 50th birthday, and somebody said to me, I should go and take a look outside. And indeed, the street was blocked, and I felt very bad. We need to sort of deny ourselves certain gratifications in the overall good. So I say that government must focus on restoring order in our daily life, in the way we process, for instance, applications. There must be predictability in the way we manage our court systems, in the way we manage public space, in the way we manage transportation. In England or Japan, modern countries have low tolerance for lateness, right? We just explain it. We just say, it's one of those things beyond our control. It's a terrible factor. Even in America, it's a black thing. Even in America, they call it CPT, Colored People's Time. So it's all over. But ours, we are so casual about it. And that's because there are no consequences. An apology is all it takes, and you just move on. And that's why we're not able to achieve that much. In England, in the UK, the tolerance level for train arrival, beyond which you are entitled to compensation, I believe is 5 or 10 minutes. I'm not so sure, but there's a tolerance, and it's expressed as a declared policy of government. In Japan, extraordinarily, it is 6 seconds. So if a train comes in 6 seconds after, you are entitled to compensation. This is what they call organizing principle. What is Nigeria's organizing principle? So if we're talking about security as just some, abstract thing, we won't focus on what the real issue is. Let us restore order. When you restore order, the criminal is even more easily identified. But today, the lawful and the lawless, you can't tell the difference. And like they say, As Fidel Castro said, in a lawless society, it is illegal to be lawful. And in Nigeria, honestly, sometimes you get the impression that the more lawful you are, the more victimized you become.
You say that government must focus on restoring order, but how?
The agencies, they are challenged. In our usual way, we have allowed a lot of things to go out of control in our usual way. And what you need to do in a country where you've allowed disorder to become the dominant philosophy, you need strong institutions. Now, the starting point for building a strong institution is to let the general public know that the chief executive of the country is fully behind these organizations. I think that sometimes our presidents are too aloof from the issues of order. They just think, I've appointed somebody, they should go and sort it out. No, not when we have sunk to this level. I mean, there's a consensus. It's not me just saying, there's a consensus that the country is steeped in disorder. It's a consensus. The place, I would say, probably has some measure of order, maybe Abuja. Now, you have disorder. That's been compounded by the long period of fuel scarcity, where people just, behave anyhow they like. So there's even a challenge of restoring order after you go through these periods of, disruption and anxiety and so on. So I believe that the president did say at one stage, I think a month after he had been appointed, he did talk about the lawlessness of the Nigerians and the need to restore order. I said there was disorder at work, disorder in schools, disorder in the homes, disorder in church and mosque, etc., which I thought was a very profound statement. And he came to power on the back of his legacy, the perception that he's a man of discipline and so on, but he hasn't said much since then. And I think that he needs to engage more with the people on those terms. Many Nigerians will react to him very positively if they thought that he was particular about that. Yes, budget is important. Yes, the financial, economic, but all of those, you can't solve them if people don't feel that they owe a sense of duty to comply with even the basic standards of decency and order in a society. You can't build a society just on economy.
So those who criticize the president for traveling too much, do you think they have a point?
I don't know what that means, traveling too much. Okay, what's too little? I don't get that. A man can govern from anywhere. I'll take that view. I don't think that, first of all, you'll have to show me the figures that he's been out more than he's been in, right? I don't think that those are, to me, minor. They are minor issues. After all, Obama, is all over the place. He was in Cuba. He went to Argentina, was dancing. If he's here, they'll say, you see, the president's dancing when the country is burning. Those are not the issues. The issues are how effectively and I think that more than anything, a head of state or a president or a king needs to engage with his people more. If there's one complaint that people have, is that they really don't know what the president is thinking. So he may not be aware. So it's about communication. You need to communicate. What is your desire? The desire of the president, as he has expressed before, is that there be order. So keep telling us that and tell your institutions to ensure that that vision of mine is enforced. It's what everybody wants. Everybody wants order. I want to be able to send a person with a young child would like to be able to send the child across the road without fearing that a car coming in the opposite direction or an Okada coming in the opposite direction will knock the child down. So order cures anxiety. It's not just about how much money you have in your pocket. So the question is, what type of country do we want to build? Those are the kind of things that are important. Boko Haram, robbery, kidnapping, all the other, for me, they are symptoms of a much more fundamental issue that we need to deal with. And people must, they call something self-governance. That's to self-govern, that the individual must self-govern. You don't have to have people telling you all the time, don't do this, don't do that. But Nigerians have ceased to self-govern. For what reasons, I don't know. So we need a leader. That's why they say you're a leader. You need to remind us about the need to self-govern so that life will just be a bit more organized and balanced, and I think it will affect quality of life. And all of this parks itself in the garage of security. You can't have security as some isolated thing. Oh, you caught 5 kidnappers. Meanwhile, Area Junction is still holding people for 9 hours. So you're not really addressing, you know, the fundamentals in my view.
There is an urgent need for government at all levels to focus on law and order. That is the key submission from my guest, Fola Arthur-Worrey, and it is a compelling submission. But what do you think? Please feel free to write in or tweet at me. Don't forget that you can find these and past episodes of the program on our YouTube channel. I am Shola Shoyeli. Thank you for watching.